Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday morning, whether it's really early or at the 9 o'clock hour, whichever it happens to be. But we're grateful that you joined us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. We're grateful to have these conversations with you and with members of our community each week about things that matter, or at least in my opinion, should matter to us as people of the greater Joplin area and people of faith, people of goodwill toward each other, even if you don't have a faith. We've got to continue to look out for each other and help each other. One of the ways it's being done in kind of the southern region, and this is like 2 weeks in a row that we've had folks from Neosho, so it's been kind of fun. But some of the good work that's going on down there is dealing with help people who are trying to battle homelessness, and that's at the Restoration Life Center in Neosho. My guest this morning is going to be Mariah Marshall, who's a caseworker there, and she's going to talk a little bit about the program and about all that they're doing to help people avoid homelessness. So grab that cup of coffee, settle in. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Don't go away. We'll be right back to talk about homelessness in the rural areas.
Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S., and now we have an effective tool to screen for it. A low-dose CT uses a lower amount of radiation than a standard chest CT.
Breathe in.
Better detailed pictures than a chest x-ray of small abnormal areas of the lung. A person must be between 55 to 77 years old, asymptomatic, which means they don't have any symptoms such as coughing up blood, chronic cough, shortness of breath, unusual weight loss, or any other worrisome symptoms. They must also be a current smoker or have quit within the past 15 years, also must have a 30-pack year history or more, which equates to smoking 1 pack a day for 30 years, or 2 packs a day for 15 years. People generally avoid these scans possibly due to fear of what could be found. Like many other cancers, if we can detect lung cancer early, it could be very treatable and life-saving.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning here at Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, Mariah Marshall, who's a caseworker at the Restoration Life Center. So, Mariah, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and what life's like at the Restoration Life Center.
Well, my name is Mariah Marshall. I'm 21. I've been a case manager since the beginning of May. A lot of what I do is help residents get their driver's license, their social security cards, and different things like that that are kind of hindering them from getting jobs, that's hindering them from buying a house or renting or, staying off of the streets, because a lot of what our residents that come into our shelter do is they do like the day labor, and then that day labor ends, and then they have to figure out, okay, what am I doing now?
Stuff. Yeah, exactly. So you're kind of like, you're there to help coach and help people figure out the next steps for doing some of that, which is good. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Restoration Life Center. So where did this come from? What is it? All that kind of good stuff. Because I'm not familiar with it, except from what little I've heard doing research now for the show.
Restoration Life Center, I believe, actually started as a food pantry that whenever some laws came around and kind of changed around how the food pantry had to work, they decided they had to figure out food pantry or physically housing the homeless. And I think that's kind of where that split came in, of where we're no longer cross lines. Everybody Googles us. I get calls all day, is this cross lines? But we're not cross lines anymore. We're Restoration Life Center, and we are the homeless shelter.
But you started out as a cross lines in Joplin. Or, I'm sorry, in Neosho. Because we do still have cross lines here. Now, is there also still a cross lines in Neosho?
No, not that I'm aware of anyway.
Okay, all right. So, but similar, it started out a similar organization, our cross lines here. So many of our Joplin viewers will know what that is. So, but you guys evolved and changed into something else. And so now that's how you started, but that's not what you're doing now. Okay, so you're not doing emergency food or anything. You're doing
emergency shelter.
Emergency shelter, which is great. And we've got a few of those here in our area as well. So I'm glad Neosho is blessed with that because, let's face it, if you weren't, we'd be taking on even more folks than we have to deal with right here in our own area. So I'm glad that you're there. And I'm sure there are many people who are grateful that you're there too because they need your services. So let's talk a little bit about tackling homelessness in the rural areas. We're sometimes, here in the quote big city of Joplin, okay, we deal with this, but we're not quite as well versed in homelessness in the rural area. So what insights can you give us about some of that? Since so much of our viewing area really is rural, very little is city per se, and even in the city of Neosho, I mean it's different. But outside of that, you don't have to travel very far to get out into the rural area. So talk a little bit about homelessness in the rural area. What do we need to know about that?
Well, I think what's kind of funny is we're a 30-minute drive away, but a lot of our residents struggle with getting to Joplin because there's not that really good transportation. I mean, there's some steps in place, but if they need their social security card, and that's what's preventing them from getting a job, getting to Joplin can be the biggest struggle that they face. Wow. Yeah. Just because, I mean, that's almost a full day's walk just to get to Joplin and then back to Neosho, let alone if you were to stop into the Social Security office or if you had multiple things to do that day. So that's kind of one struggle that we face. Yeah. And even with different jobs, Neosho, isn't that big, I would say. And a lot of our residents like to look at houses up in Joplin because they're cheaper or it's more utilities, electric, everything's included, whereas in Neosho and Granby that they kind of look at, it's more, okay, so here's your base rent for a house, and houses go for more than apartments, as I'm sure you're aware.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so they're looking at these high price tags kind of in this rural area, and it's just sometimes I have one resident that comes in and he's like, it just feels like a kick in the gut after a kick in the gut. He just got his income coming in and now he's trying to find a place and nothing's in his budget.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think that we do, those of us that are blessed not to worry about these things day to day, we do forget how difficult that is. I mean, even that you just mentioned finding the ride and the assistance to get the Social Security card, to get the job, to do all those things. And when you live in a rural area like Neosho, that just adds another layer of complication in terms of being able to do that. Because obviously there's not a Social Security office in Neosho, and so I'm glad you're there to kind of like help folks, kind of get past some of those barriers, those obstacles. And I mean, again, as you, as you're talking about rental properties in a place like Neosho, since I don't do rental properties and don't look at some of those kinds of things, I don't always think about the extra layers that make it difficult for somebody who's really trying to turn the corner, who's got the job, who's keeping, holding it and doing all those things. But it's very interesting to hear you're talking about the fact that there are a few more layers that sometimes we don't think about when we take some of those things for granted. And I'm hoping that, that most of the people who are watching our show today have got a roof over their heads and a steady job or a steady income and have got that security, but it's not always that simple, is it?
No.
Yeah. So tell me the kind of folks that find you down there in Neosho, and just tell us some of the stories of their lives so that we kind of know what folks are dealing with.
We have a very broad, I would say, group of people that come to us. I mean, we have people that grew up in Granby, just down the road from where I'm from, and then we have some people that are from California that were just trying to find a cheaper wage related, a cheaper area.
Cheaper cost of living. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because, you could have a $15 an hour job out there, but it's not doing you anything. That's what they come telling us, of course.
Yeah.
And then we have veterans that are just trying to get through with the VA, are just kind of that in-between places, just trying to get established and set up. And we have 17-year-olds that got kicked out of the house, or 17-year-olds that didn't get along with their parents or even foster parents sometimes. I mean, we have elderly people. We had a little old man over the summer that his lease ended and his landlord said, well, I'm giving my son your house. And he didn't have enough time to find a place within his fixed income. So we have a whole mixing pot. We have mothers with children and just
Yeah, interesting. And
all
I guess
ages.
so it's interesting to me that you're dealing with the broad range of that. So you do men and women there at the Restoration Life Center.
And children.
And children. Okay. So you're running the full life gamut from there. And so many interesting stories about some of those things. So is there a limit to the amount of time somebody can stay? How do you screen those folks? How does all that stuff work?
We start off with a background check. We make sure that the person doesn't have any assaults or batteries or any kind of violence in their past. There's not a warrant out for their arrest. They have to be able to pass a drug test and a breathalyzer. And they do have to take the breathalyzer every single night before they can stay in our shelter. Okay. Upon entry, we say for families 7 days, which that's situation based, of course. And then for individuals, it's a 30 days. Emergency shelter. If they were to obtain a job during those 30 days and are working and bringing in an income that they can prove to us, they are actually able to stay up to a year using our shelter as kind of that transitional housing for them to save money. We have the requirement if they stay past the 30 days, they have to put 50% of their income into savings. That way, whenever they leave, they're not leaving empty-handed.
Well, they've got their deposit and they've got their first month's rent and which is great. So yeah. So in other words, if they're making progress, there's usually pretty much what you're saying is if they're making progress, there's a space for them, as long as they keep working toward those goals and keep some of those things going.
Yes, sir.
That's
Their
great.
success is based on them, and that's how we want them to be. As long as they're putting in their effort, we will meet them where they are. We'll be right there with them. Like even if they get the job, they get the down payment, the deposit, like you were saying, we can help them with furniture that is donated to our thrift store. We can help them with the utensils, the cooking supplies, anything like that that's at our shelter can go to help them when they're starting off again.
So you guys, you got several different pieces of this operation. You've got the folks who work in the shelter itself, case workers, things like that. You've obviously got a thrift store to go along with, which is great in terms of being able to help set people up and to do those things. Social workers. Do you have social workers down there other than, just in terms of, that folks that, can help, even unlock the bigger parts of the system? Yeah.
That is kind of more of an outsource.
Okay.
Right now there's about 3 of us actually working in the shelter. It's me, the case manager, Kelly, our night shift manager, and then we have Linda starting, who is kind of our receptionist, and I want to say / shelter supervisor. Okay.
All right. Yeah. All right. So a lean operation. Obviously, you don't have, because again, social workers, degreed social workers cost, a little money and all those kinds of things. So you outsource those when you need to.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And I assume that you've got a large roster of people that you refer to for different issues and things like that.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. So you work a lot. So you network a lot with the folks in the Neosho area.
Yes, sir. One big one that we work with a lot is actually Ozark Center. They help us out a lot with providing that one-on-one with individual residents that might need that little bit more attention.
Well, and some folks are, everybody comes with a little bit of baggage, but some folks come with a little extra, and they just need some more. Sometimes they just never had anybody to coach them to do some of that stuff, like you were talking earlier about. We helping them, set up a budget, and we do those things. Well, some people have never been taught how to do that. It was just kind of like if it came in, you could spend it, and there was no thought about any of those things. And if that was never modeled for them, how do they do it? Right. The same thing is true with emotional things. If you never had anybody to model some of that for you, or how to respond some way other than just hauling off and hitting somebody else, how do you have somebody teach you how to manage those things and to model that stuff in terms of those things? My guest this morning, Mariah Marshall, is a caseworker at the Restoration Life Center. And so we are going to be right back after a real quick break. So don't go away, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Well, again, thanks for sticking with us on a Sunday morning, bright day in January. My guest this morning, Mariah Marshall, who's a caseworker at the Restoration Life Center in Neosho. So it's good to have you with us, Mariah. We've been talking about, homelessness and how to help people not to be homeless. We kind of like launched, and then we did this. Are there any other we were talking about, especially homelessness in the rural area? Are there other things that maybe we don't think about, in the more populated areas that are specific challenges to those who are trying to remain, in a home in a rural area? Is there other things that we maybe haven't mentioned or haven't thought about for our viewers?
We did kind of talk about the transportation, but one thing I also kind of wanted to elaborate on is Neosho's not a big town, as I'm sure you're kind of aware of. I mean, it is, but it's not. And we have some residents that will walk for 2-3 hours a day just to go work a job at Walmart, or to work out past Walmart towards the college or Lazy Boy. And I just really think a lot of times that dedication is kind of overlooked, that these residents will get up in the morning some days and just walk and go, and they'll fight for these jobs. And then it's kind of amazing to see that point of view. And I think kind of that's one thing in the rural area is I also work at Walmart sometimes.
Yeah.
I say that part-time.
Kind of supplement your income, yeah.
But I was astonished by how many customers didn't realize the homeless shelter was even there. And I would kind of work it into my conversation while I'm bagging their groceries, and they're like, "Oh, you mean in Joplin?" No, I mean right here in Neosho. And they're like, "Where?" And I think that's one thing too, is it's in Neosho, it's in a city, but to me it's kind of like it's off on the side of Neosho, where they still have to make that large walk just to get to anywhere in Neosho as well.
Right. So it's just an extra layer of challenge. That if everything is nice and neat in the city, it's one thing, but the more spread out you are, the more of a challenge it is, especially for your residents who are trying to make that difference in their lives, or to turn that corner. Mm-hmm. And again, you just don't always think about those things. And I think that many times people deal with the stereotype of, some of these people don't want to work, but you're obviously witnessing people who are willing to walk hours a day in order to keep the job and to have the steady paycheck and to make this difference and to do some of those things. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I like to have people like you on the show, so you can tell some of those stories, because I think it's important that everybody understands that we don't always understand what other people go through, It's kind of like that, until you've walked a mile in my shoes, you really don't understand what I'm all about or what I've done, which is tough. So tell us about some of your success stories. I mean, tell me about some of the things that you just like, that make it so worthwhile for you to go to work, or some of the people that you've had in the past, some of your residents that you've seen in the past that have gone on to do wonderful things. Tell us some of those, because I think they're important so that we got some hope for some of these folks.
I want to start with our most recent one, Donald.
Well, so tell me about Ronald. He
was a veteran. He was with us for, I want to say, 4 months, and he kind of started off with just saving, and he was like, "I don't know how I'm ever going to leave here." He's like, "I think I'm going to be here forever." Mm-hmm. He's a veteran on a fixed income, and he just moved here from a couple states away, and it was just a big,
challenges.
Life
it seemed
change.
Like a hill was like this, right? Yeah.
And here we are 4 months later, and he just bought a house. And he's moved farther away over in Fairview, and excuse me, lost my voice.
There you go.
And he's just a big success story to me, because he always was doing what he was supposed to. We have our residents work at our thrift store if they don't have a job currently, just to kind of fill that gap in what they would be doing, even those that are on Social Security. So it kind of gives them something to do throughout the day.
Sure.
Gets them up in the morning, gets them kind of doing something every day. And he was one that was always eager, and he was like, "What do you need me to do? Tell me what to do and I'll do it." And he was very sweet, and he came to me after actually a 4-day weekend for me, and I came in and he goes, "Well, I'm leaving." And I said, "Well, no, you're not." We talked about it for about 15 minutes. Told him he wasn't leaving. But sure enough, he got a dog, and he's just so excited. He was crying when he left, and one thing he left on was the love. He said he was leaving behind a family is kind of what he felt like.
Well, and he can come back and visit, but the dignity he has now for just, kind of helping pull himself up, he's going to be able to take some pride in his life and what he's doing. I love it. I think that's a great success story. Somebody who's made a difference. And again, he just thought he was going to be down forever, but he climbed up that hill, and as steep as it was, 4 months later, he's made that kind of a difference in his life, that he's able to go out and to have his own home and to be able to do his own thing. And that's a great thing. I mean, that's a super story. What else? You got some other stories?
I also just wanted to touch while we were talking about that, is that love and acceptance and accountability. Mm-hmm. When I was walking out the door to come here today, one resident stopped me and he said, just remember, love, acceptance, and accountability. He has been going through our program for a little bit now, and he says, I wouldn't make it without the accountability. We do have people that come in that have been addicted to drugs or have been addicted to alcohol and different things. And he says, I couldn't have made it through where I am today. He said, there were some days I didn't think I would make it without a drink. And here I am months later, still just kicking and going. And I also want to touch on the love, because our shelter being where it is and the way it is, they all are facing hardships. They're all facing that struggle, and they're all there to support each other. And that's one thing that's been incredible with this group of people that we have, is whenever they do have a bad day, they're all right there, like supporting and lifting up each other and just kind of building and growing. And that's, I don't want to say it's because we're a Christian organization, but I do think that kind of love of God and the different Bible studies we have every night really do help kind of tie it in, that we're all here together. Let's make the best of it while we're here together. And they do kind of get that support from the different churches that come in and do those Bible studies.
Well, I'm just going to say, I do religion for a living, and I do believe that there is something there to that thing of doing things together as a group. I think that the group helps more so than it hinders. Once in a while it hinders, but most of the time it helps. And part of the reason for that is because we do have each other to lean on in those moments. So that support is there. That acceptance is there from one member of the community to another, and helps build each other up. And somebody's having a bad day, well, somebody can help reach out and take them under their wing and say, hey, I've been there, but you can make it. Keep going. This is good. And accountability is the same way. It's kind of like having a workout partner. Okay. Well, I know some people who wouldn't show up to work out if they hadn't made that appointment with their partner that says, okay, I don't want to do this, and I'm going to do it kicking and screaming or whatever, but I'm going to do it because I'm making this accountable. I'm setting the appointment with you, and so I'm going to show up and do it because you're counting on me and I'm counting on you. And teaching people and coaching people how to have those kind of relationships in a community setting like that is really, I don't think just survival, but it's setting them up for life in a really good sense, don't you think? I mean, that's what, and I would hope that all Christian organizations can do that. I mean, I would hope that any organization of goodwill, even if it's a secular social service organization, we still have some of those same principles in mind that bring us together to do that. But I would say the bar's a little higher for me for the Christian ones, because I really think if you're going to call yourself Christian, that means that you're supposed to be modeling yourself on the life of Jesus. And if we're modeling ourselves on the life of Jesus, we're going to have that love for people. We're going to have acceptance for each other, and we're going to call each other to more, which is that love, acceptance, and accountability that you're talking about, which I think is wonderful, which I think is great. Yeah. So, in terms of this, you know that you're making a difference in homelessness in the rural area. So how many people, like say for example, how many people can you house, and how many people have you seen go through the center like in the last year?
We can hold up to 30 people at a time, and I've only been there since May, but I would say,
just guess. It's okay. I'm not gonna call you on your your statistics, but
I'd probably say it's probably safe to say since I've been there in May, probably 150 people, just because we usually have probably about 10 people that stay the same within the month, but then there's also these extra 10, 15 people that kind of shift through. They're here one night, they might be here 3 or 4 nights, they might be here just kind of more sporadic like that.
Well, and again,
because it's a harder program than just you get to sleep here for that longer than 30 days. So it usually kind of find those people that aren't staying the full 30 days kind of sift through that.
Sure, yeah. And again, what you really want to do is, it's an interesting tension they have to hold. You want to challenge people, at the same time you want to be nice to them, but you want to also challenge them to take control of their lives. And I think it's an important aspect of what you're doing. Is you're not just saying, oh, come here and you can just lay around and do nothing and we'll keep you warm for 30 days. I mean, there's a place for some folks to be able to do that, I think. But if you're really trying to make a difference in somebody's life, and that's kind of your title, the Restoration Life Center, if you're really going to help people restore themselves to a life, there has to be some of that accountability where they're doing something to kind of move themselves along. So if folks were to help you, what might they do to help you? Certainly donations, obviously.
Absolutely.
Use the thrift store down in Neosho.
That is
What
a big
else?
point I want to make with the thrift store, is if you have clothing that has holes in them or are stained or are painted on that are just so bad you want to just throw them away, our thrift store can actually use them and recycle them, and they can still kind of get that funding back to our emergency shelter that way, because our thrift store supports our emergency shelter. With us being a faith-based organization, we don't get government assistance, so all of our funding pretty well comes from churches and our thrift store.
Well, there you go. And I know if they want to read about the work that you're doing or be in touch with you online, excuse me, it's RLC, all right? So Restoration Life Center, RLC Neosho, all right? All one word, rlcneosho.org, okay? So we're going to be right back after this quick break for our wrap-up, so stick around.
Blessings and greetings of mercy to you. My name is Anna Nichols. I am a Sister of Mercy and currently the leader of Heritage and Spirituality at Mercy International Association. I love the fact that sisters throughout time have gone where they have been called to go, and they have often picked up ministries that they never intended to pick up. 25 years ago, there were 22,000 Sisters of Mercy globally. Today we're down to about 6,200 with Sister Rock and some of the others. But despite the fact there are 6,500 or 6,200 sisters left, there is an amazing number of women and men of mercy who are working alongside us, and that continues to expand and expand, and for me that is incredibly exciting. So as far as National Catholic Sisters Week, I really look at the legacy that they have passed on and the fact that so many women, men, young people are living mercy today. That really is for me what's significant.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning was Mariah Marshall, who's a caseworker at the Restoration Life Center down in Neosho. I think Neosho is certainly blessed to have a center where folks can come, hopefully for a short period of time, but even as much up to a year if needed, to get their life back on track and to make sure that they're trying to save themselves from a homelessness situation. It's a lot easier to keep people from becoming homeless when you've got an emergency shelter like that in the area. So blessings to the Restoration Life Center. Again, if you want to help them, all kinds of things that you can do, rlcneosho.org. But we thank you for joining us for Faith in Our Hometown this Sunday morning. Have a great Sunday. God bless, and come see us next week.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.